So you
That's
just
great.
really got to think about, all of this is about love. All of this is about how people care for each other and are tender with each other. And if we go into it like it's a fight and like it's a difficult thing, we make it into a fight and a difficult thing. We even call them difficult conversations, don't we? Courageous conversations.
Yeah.
So here's my secret weapon for these conversations. So how about we sit down, we make a cup of coffee, maybe let's have some cake, that would be good. And let's think about these decisions that might have to happen, not with a tick list of decisions, but with a wish list of priorities. If you have to make choices for me, always choose the thing that makes the least burden on your dad. If you've got to make decisions for me, always choose the decision that gives me the best hope of dying comfortably. If you've got to make decisions for me, always choose the thing that's going to give me the best hope of not being a burden to my grandchildren. And now we can start to wrap the medical decisions around the person's priorities. And it's not a blow by blow medical discussion at all. It's about, okay, now I'm your doctor, I'm your mum's doctor, and what you're telling me is your mum's priorities were always about nature, were always about the countryside. And here she is in an inner city hospital. She's got a tiny little window. She's looking at a square of tower block through it. What can we do that's about her values? Keeping her here with that view is not about her values. How do we get her to a view of the countryside? How do we get her back into nature? Is it about the amount of time she can spend appreciating nature? Because we can keep her alive for a long time on machines here, but she won't see nature. Or we can get her home for possibly a shorter time, and she can look at her apple tree through her window.
Brilliant. Well, I'm thinking that's probably a very good note on which to finish this conversation, Kathryn. I'm just amazed at your wisdom, and I'm sure it's from many, many hours of experience and working with people. I don't know if you have any final comments that you'd like to share around advanced care planning or around the book with the end in mind. I leave that up to you with your cup of tea in hand. I don't know, maybe it's more Canadian to have coffee in hand. Final thoughts. If you're talking to an audience, what are you going to tell them?
Well, I think that this is our superpower. This absolutely is our superpower. And when Sheli and I were first sitting down this afternoon, I was showing her the paperback cover for the British version of the book. That's a much posher teacup and saucer than I would ever use. You know you're going to need a whole mug through to get a conversation like this, okay? But actually there's something really lovely about sitting down together as two people who are having a cup of tea to talk about something that's really important. And if this is your parent, this is your spouse, this is your child, this is your best friend, this is a tender conversation between people who love each other. Let's not make it difficult. Let's not make it complicated. Let's just say, okay, so we're going to talk about this. And the really best plan is to have a really good plan for what you're going to talk about after this. Okay, so this conversation is going to be followed by, I've got the holiday photographs of the grandchildren back to show you, or we're going to go back through the old photograph albums of the grandchild's wedding from last year. We're going to do something together that's going to make us smile, it's going to lift our mood. So even if we've become a little bit weary or sad during a conversation about what matters most, we've got a lift at the end. But generally what happens is when you have the conversation about what matters most, it lifts it anyway. And these conversations are often surprisingly joyful and surprisingly full of laughter. So maybe we should go into them with lighter hearts and stop dragging ourselves down so much as we have them. Yeah, and I think maybe it's worth thinking about what COVID has done about advanced care planning is it's stolen the title, hasn't it, advanced care planning, and it's turned it into a conversation that is only about limiting treatments. And that isn't what advanced care planning was ever intended to be. So although it is important that people who want to refuse particular things are empowered to do that, we have to help people to understand that advanced care planning is a huge thing. And it's about who I am and what I'm worth and what I believe in and what mark I want to leave in the world. And there's a tiny, tiny bit of that that's about medical decisions. And we have to recognize that the medical decisions bit, it's important, but it's only a tiny component.